Okay guys, I've already got 1,000,001 videos that I still have to finish editing and get out, but I felt compelled to make this video because I feel like it's pretty relevant. So I had someone on eBay purchase my service, and instead of sending his system to me, he wanted me to send him a 500 gigabyte drive for him to install in the system himself. And that saves some money on the shipping to me and then for me to ship it back to him. So it works out pretty good. Now, in this video, I'm just going to show you actually creating an Xbox One 500 gigabyte drive, and I'm not going to involve the Xbox in this process because this is actually how I'm doing it. So this is just a quick video to show you how to make a standard 500 gigabyte drive. Now, I'm saying this is relevant because on some of my most recent videos, I've been showing you creating 5 terabyte systems, which is not something everybody wants to do. In fact, I get pointed out over and over again, why would you put a large internal drive and risk ruining your system when you can just attach an external storage device and get the same amount of storage? So attaching a 5 terabyte or a 6 terabyte external storage to your system and not having to go through the whole process of taking your system apart. And they're not wrong with that, but there are still some people that don't want to use external drives, or for whatever reason they just want to max out the internal and the external, which is actually what I like to do. But when they do comment on the why would you upgrade your internal drive, what they're forgetting is the other half of the process. And the other half of the process is that if you have an Xbox One where your system has died, or your drive has died, not your system, but essentially your drive dies, your system dies, and basically you want to get your system up and running again. And in order to do that, you need to create a standard 500 gigabyte, 1 terabyte, or 2 terabyte drive. So that's important to note. If you have a system with a dead hard drive, you cannot just go and create a 5 terabyte drive and expect that to work. What you have to do instead is create a 500 gigabyte, a 1 terabyte, or a 2 terabyte, get that up and running, get that drive working. So basically do the steps you see here, then install in your system, initialize it by adding your account and booting to the dashboard. Once you've done that, you can then take that drive and use some of my other videos to upgrade it to 5 terabyte, for instance, or 2 terabyte, or 3 terabyte, or whatever you want to do. So let's get started in that. But again, I think that's important to note that this is about fixing systems as well as upgrading systems. So there's definitely two sides to that. It's either an upgrade or it's a repair. And a lot of my videos are more about the upgrade than the repair part. But anyways, so here's a repair video. Okay, so what I have here is a 7200 RPM Western Digital drive, and I'm going to hook that up to my system. So let me go over to our desktop here. And what I wanted to show you, this is the drive that I just showed in front of you. It's a 7200 RPM drive, and basically normally an Xbox One, whether it's the X model or it's the S model, they ship with 5400 RPM drives. So they tend to, on average, run at about 100 megabytes per second speed, whereas 7200 RPM drives run at about 120 megabytes speed. So the 7200 RPM drives are faster. So if you are willing to spend a little more money, these are about $10 more than a 5400 RPM drive from Seagate or the Blue Series from Western Digital. A lot of people don't like Seagate. Seagate is in almost every single Xbox system I see. Some do have Western Digital drives, and I've seen the Western Digital drives fail as well. So there's Western Digital, I feel, is a better drive, but that doesn't mean it's not going to have or doesn't have the potential for failure. But that being said, they seem to fail less often than the Seagate drives. All right, anyways, so that's the drive that you might want to consider ordering. So if you have a system where your 500 gigabyte drive has died, this is probably the drive you want to get. And I'll put a link in the description of this video. Next, in order to do this process of creating a new drive, we're going to need a few of my tools. Again, the link to this will be in the description of this video. What we have here is basically my Windows Partitioning Script, and we would right-click this and we want to download it. Again, links will be in the description. And what you're also going to want is the boot animation files, because they're not included in the other thing we need, which is the OSU1 download. And I'll have that link in the description. I'm not going to show you the actual OSU1 download because the link doesn't work at the current site I'm at. It's actually blocked. But that doesn't mean I don't have a copy on the system. But we'll get to that. Okay, so we need this and we'll need this. Now, as I was showing you before, again, the links will be in the description. You're basically going to want to download these 3 items here. And I'm going to show you using them. So the first is our scripts to actually format the drive. The next is the boot animation files for your Xbox One booting up. And lastly is the OSU1.zip for your dashboard, basically, for rebuilding your drive. Okay, so we're going to start first with our Xbox One HDD Master. You can see I've already unzipped it to our desktop here. So in order to start using this, we want to basically come over here, right-click our Start menu, and select Windows PowerShell Admin. Okay, and then we're going to want to go to where our script is. In this case, it's on my desktop, so it's cd/users, and in my case, xfix, and then desktop, then Xbox. And I'm hitting tab, by the way, to fill in the directories without having to type in the entire name, and win. Okay, now the other thing I want to do here is so we can track what's actually happening. I'm going to do a start run and open disk management. So it's this guy here, and we'll say OK to that. And this will allow us to just watch what's actually happening to the hard drive. I mentioned this in some of my videos before. Okay, so right now we have all of these this is my local SSD, and then I have 2 storage drives, and then this is a flash drive with the OSU1 files on it. We'll get to that in a moment. But what I haven't attached yet is our 500 gigabyte drive. So let's do that, and so you can see the condition of that drive right now. Okay, so there's our 500 gigabyte drive. It hasn't been formatted yet. So now I'll put this down here so you can actually see what happens. And we're going to actually run our script. So again, I start typing and then hit tab. Now this is the newer 6.1 version of the script, and I haven't actually shown you this particular step, so this differs from some of my other videos. And that is, instead of selecting B to replace or upgrade, we want to basically do a replace. So we're doing a repair, so it's basically a replacement drive. We could also use this to upgrade, so if we wanted to go to a 2 terabyte drive and didn't want to copy the data over from our other drive, then we could do this as well. But we're going to assume that, and this is what this case is going to be, that we have a system without a hard drive at all because the hard drive is dead. So we want to select option A. And here's our disk 3. So we'll select that. And it shows you if there's anything on the disk. In this case, there isn't. So we'll select yes. This here is just the disk GUID, so it at least has that, so it's a GPT disk. Next, we want to select our partition layout. Because we selected option A and we said without a working original drive, it only gives us the options of picking the standard sizes. So again, that's important to note if you're trying to build a drive for the first time or in a system that doesn't have a drive to copy data from, you need to create a standard first. Okay, so in this case, we're going to select option A. And let the script work its magic. All right, so the process is complete. Now for good measure, I'm going to show you, we're going to go to our desktop here, and we're going to look at our master win, and let's open our README file. And in here, we actually have a listing for what all the GPT values should be. So we're going to scroll down a little bit till we get to this guy right here. So we're going to get to step 6, which shows you the valid values. And if we compare it with the drive that we just finished, the partitions themselves from temp content down to system update 2, all the GUIDs look fine. The difference here is the disk GUID. In this case, we're making a 500 gigabyte drive. So if we look up here, here's our A23. So everything looks good. So we know that our GUID values look fine. And then if we come down here and look at disk management, do a quick refresh here, we can see all the names look fine as well, and all the partitions are listed as healthy. Okay, so we're going to press any key here to finish out the script. If you have a non-English system, this will change back the language files. You want to make sure you finish that last step if you have a non-English system. And there we go. So that's the end of the script process that we need. So next, we're going to go to the next thing we need to download, which is this bootanimation.zip. Just to show you, the way I downloaded it here is this is on my Google Drive. I actually right-clicked and said download, and when I did that, Google automatically created this zip file for me. Okay, so what we're going to want to do now is add the boot animation to our X partition. So this is going to be, well, I don't know what this is going to be for, and it doesn't really matter. You can use the boot animation from the Xbox One X on OG and S systems, and vice versa. You can use the boot animation from the earliest systems on the X. So in this case, I'm assuming that we have an OG or an S. So we'll just take this file here, and we will copy it. And then what we want to do is go to our system update partition, so the X partition or the X drive. Here we're going to right click and we're going to create a new folder called A, and we'll create a second folder called B, and we're going to right click it, paste in our boot animation file, and right click B and paste in our boot animation file again. We'll just go in here to make sure it's there. It is. Excellent. In the past, on some of my videos, I showed you basically copying OSU1 files to the X drive, the A and B folders. At this point, I don't really recommend doing that anymore. There's no real need for it. Basically, put the boot animation files in these directories like I showed you here, so that when you rebuild your drive, you'll see that animation. But you'll know that this process will work in the case of that you might have to actually reset the system before you can get the drive working again, in which case it would delete A and B anyways. So this saves you a step, and then it's always the same process going forward for you. So basically, at this point, our drive is ready to put in the Xbox One that we're trying to repair. So let's eject our drive. We'll go to this PC here so you can see this. And so we will right click here, or we're going to basically go into our safely remove, and we're going to eject our Xbox One disk. Okay, so at this point we can disconnect the drive from our Windows PC, and we can install this back into our Xbox One. Now when we do that, get the drive back into our Xbox One, boot it up, you'll likely see, or you almost certainly see, an E106 error. And that's okay, because we're going to then use our flash drive to actually rebuild the drive. It would be also safe at this point to basically reset our system. So one of the options in the Xbox One menu will be to reset. And you can say reset keeping games, or you can tell it to reset removing everything. Either one of those options is fine at this point, because you don't have any data on the drive anyways. So whichever you choose won't make a difference. If you don't want to go through the reset, you can just try to build from the dashboard files. But I recommend resetting only because you likely have some accounts and things that might not work properly if you don't do a reset. Okay, all right, enough talking. So our last step is we're going to want to put the OSU1 files on a flash drive. And so I've already got a flash drive attached, and it's this OSU-D drive. And if we look at this drive, we right-click it and say Properties, we can see that this is actually a 32 gigabyte flash drive. You could use as small as 8 gigabyte. I believe, let me see here, that the OSU1 zip is somewhere around 4 gigs or so. Yeah, so 4.5 gigs. Yeah, so you really want to have a 8 gigabyte flash drive. And yeah, what this folder is here, the system update folder, is if we right-click our OSU1 and use 7-zip to open the archive, you can see within here there's just a single folder called System Update. At this point, we want to extract this to our flash drive. And the other thing I wanted to show you on the flash drive before I closed it is that our flash drive is formatted as an NTFS drive. That's an important step. Usually when you get a flash drive out of the box or from a store, it's FAT32. So what you're going to want to use is the tools here to, can you even do that anymore? I'm not even sure. I think, well, let's see, maybe you can right click it and do format. Yeah, okay, so in the case of our D drive here, we could right click it and choose format. And in this case, we have the NTFS option. It'll likely be FAT32, but it could also be this as well. But usually it's FAT32 from the store. But at this point, we just format it. In this case, I gave it a volume label of OSU. Okay, and we can choose quick format, and that would format it really quickly. To save time, we're not going to do that. But we're going to come back to our 7-zip here, click extract, change the location, and we want the location to be our flash drive. And at this point we would say OK, and it would unzip it to our flash drive. Now you can see I already have a system update directory on our flash drive, so I'm not going to do this right now. But that's basically what you do. Let that finish. It'll have basically a progress bar you want to wait for. And then once that's done, you'll have system update, and within the system update folder are a bunch of files now. This is more files than have been available in the past. It looks like Microsoft is doing something where they're separating out a bunch of language files. I'm not sure if these files were contained within a single file in the past and now they've added support, or they've decided to extract them out, or perhaps they didn't support multiple languages using OSU1 in the past. I'm not really sure. But either way, this is what you should see on your flash drive, is this system update folder and contents like this. And depending on the OSU1, you always want to download the latest, even if you've been doing this for a while and you're repairing several systems. You always want to download the latest OSU1 before you actually try to do an offline update. The idea being, if you have an update or a dashboard on the system that you're trying to repair that is newer than the OSU1 you had downloaded in the past, this whole process won't work. So you want to make sure you get the latest OSU1. And that also goes for people in the preview program. If you're in the preview program, it's likely your system is newer than the OSU1 that you downloaded. And again, this won't work, so you'd have to wait a bit for the OSU1 to surpass the preview dashboard that you're on. Okay, so at this point we have our flash drive ready to go. So what we want to do is eject that as well. And now we have our flash drive ready to go. So let's over to our camera here. So we have our hard drive, and this is ready to put into the Xbox One. And then we have our flash drive with the OSU1 files on here. So at this point, we're good to actually go back to the Xbox One and repair the system. As I said at the beginning of this video, I don't actually have that system, so I'm going to ship this stuff off to the customer, and they'll be able to repair their system with a drive already pre-formatted and the OSU1 files already downloaded. It's not something I typically like to do for people. The reason I make these videos is I want you to be able to do this yourself. I don't have necessarily a problem with doing it, but it requires me doing the work and then shipping stuff to you, whereas you could just get the drive yourself, or if you have a drive laying around and a flash drive laying around, you can start this process immediately. Or at the very least, you could go to a store and pick up these items here. So again, you want at least an 8 GB or better flash drive, and you would want at least a 500 GB drive to repair your system. You can also use a 1 TB or 2 TB, but cost-wise, the 500 GB, of course, is the cheapest. And if you plan on going to a larger non-standard drive, then this might be the way to start. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just a quick, basically, I just wanted to show you guys really quick, without a lot of extras, about how to get your new drive created and how to do it using the newer 6.1 Windows Partitioning Script. A lot of my older videos on this process were done as much as 6 to 8 months ago, and it was a slightly different process, so I figured I'd update that for you guys. All right, well, I'll see you in my next video. Like I said, I got a lot of videos coming out soon. In fact, I might have this video come out back to back with a bunch of others. So there you go. All right, well, I'll see you guys in my next video.